What's up, everyone? It's time to bust out the champagne and celebrate. In this episode, we're celebrating our first anniversary with my number one powder coater, husband, and co-host of the Powder Coater podcast, RossKote. But that's not all. We've got a giveaway, special announcements, and updates, and we'll also hear from Ross on how he built his shop from the ground up. Learn how and why you'll want to make your next oven an electric one. Find out what supplies he used for his ovens, spray booths, and blasting room. We've got it all, and we'll review what we've learned over the years as well as the mistakes we've made. Get ready to level up your powder coater game. Welcome to the Powder Coater podcast. It's our first anniversary podcast. I can't believe that we've actually been podcasting for over a year. Happy to welcome my co-host for a change, RossKote. Did you know it was our anniversary, honey?
No, I don't pay attention to events like that.
Yes, I know. So I'm here today. We're just super stoked to be celebrating our anniversary. I'm going to share my screen here for a second. We have reached 10,000 downloads. We're super stoked and excited that we have. It's a kind of a big deal, I guess, in podcasting. I didn't really know, just trying to create content for custom coders when we first started. But I got a surprise email the other day to say that we reached this kind of mega goal. We're also in the top 10% of all podcasts. So thank you to the community. We also have done 36 interviews and 29 coder news, lots of other bonus material and stuff. It's kind of exciting to be in the situation that we're in and happy to move forward. I don't think we're going to slow down with any content. We may not post as much, but because things are getting busier around the shop. Would you agree, Ross?
Yeah, okay. A little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. He's a bit overwhelmed, but we're going to have a giveaway today. And if you are an avid listener or a super fan, please go sign on to be a Patreon, because you're going to get a couple of extra things. One, you're going to get a drink holder. We have a couple of them here. There's just the two that you see on the page there. That our good friend Make Any Kind Stuff, Maui. He does powder coating, but he also does laser etching and stuff like that. So if you sign up to be an avid listener or a super fan after watching this show, you will get one of those drink holders as long as they are lasting, they are limited in number. You'll also be getting that Blast One surface prep guide. We have just a couple of them left. And then we're going to give you 1 free hour of consultation on the phone with either Ross or Kim. So depending on if you need business advice, you're going to be calling me. If you need Ross's advice on building your oven or building your shop or whatever, they'll be happy to talk to you for an hour and schedule a time that is convenient for you. So are you okay with that? I just kind of added that.
That's fine. I was like, well, okay.
I know you have enough to do, but I'm going to add to your plate. On to the main event. Ross, how you built your shop, your powder coating shop. Of course, I handled a lot of the business side of it, but this is actually all about you and how you did it. We are going to talk about some specifics And then hopefully at the end of it, we're going to give away in the vault, we're going to put it in the vault, a list of as much of the resources that you use to build your ovens as much as possible, with links to what we bought, how we bought it, how much we bought of it, that sort of stuff. So we are going to put that in the comments. So please click the link that's in there just so that you guys can get access to that vault. That's by going to the Powder Coater podcast and then clicking that Patreon page. And for just $1, you can get access to the vault. If you want to do the giveaway and stuff, you can go and be an avid listener or a super fan. But without further ado, let me reintroduce my husband. This is a very younger version of him.
Oh my goodness.
I know. Look at that. You look like a
40-year-old.
You look like a robot. I don't know. Like,
yeah,
you are emotional in some of this stuff, but I think you were just really proud. So basically, you realize that it takes more than just, there's more than one iteration as you're building and growing your shop, right?
Yes. And, you learn what works good and what does not work. And that's what happens, So, yeah.
Yeah. We tried modifications throughout the builds.
Right. And, you got to have 3 key components when you do stuff like this. And it's called blood, sweat, and tears. And once you get through that, then you can get to building your stuff. So just be prepared. There's a little bit of sweat equity you're going to have to put into this. It's not easy, but anybody can do it. Like we said in the first podcast, when I spoke to Ted over the phone, he's like, you can build a box or a wall, you can build an oven. So you can take that even further. If you can do that, you can also build your booth, your powder coating, and your sandblast room, and on and on and on. So if you know how to frame a wall, you can build all these things. It's just a matter of getting the materials to build them and then building it.
Yeah. And I mean, blood, sweat, and tears is totally what it is too, because there was some, like, I had to close my eyes at some of it, because like, I know in this build 1 where you're all sweaty back here. I mean, you putting that, first of all, you cut yourself pretty hardcore. I remember you bleeding pretty hard, but. Yes,
I did. I cut myself really bad installing the roof of the oven.
Yeah.
Because that was the last thing I put up, was the roof. Actually, the door was the last thing, and it's always the last thing. But the roof is the last major component. And I built it in a whole 10-foot section. So, 10 feet by 4 feet of 2x4s with fiberglass insulation inside weighs a lot. And I was doing it by myself, which was silly. And the edges of the metal are very sharp. So I cut myself pretty badly, yes.
Yeah, and so we kind of laughed it off and said, ah, ha, 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 she just wants your blood.
Yes, we did.
And sometimes you kind of have to think about that too. Like these are, I guess, machines, simple machines, but
yes,
they do give you something. They help you make something so that you can make a living. And it's always best to kind of think of it as, I don't know how many people love their ovens. I can tell you that we certainly do respect the metal around here,
Well, it's your tooling for your business, and you have to understand that if you're making your own tooling for your business, you're going to save a lot of money and you're going to get a lot of enjoyment out of it. For me, just learning how to build something like this was satisfaction. It was incredible, especially when I flicked it on and it heated up and it did what I thought it was going to do. And it not only did that, it did it more than what I thought it could do. So You have to really be impressed by stuff like that when you do it yourself. It's pretty exceptional.
It is a great feeling to know that you can provide for yourself. I mean, certainly there's a lot more to powder coating than just building the oven, but I know we're kind of simplifying things here, but in essence, we built the ovens, or I don't want to say me even, like, I know I was there taking pictures, but I think the smartest way to build it, I think I've said it on a few other podcasts, is we've always built as we needed rather than just throwing the money down on something really huge, especially if it's pre-built. And that's the difference between what we've done versus a lot of guys just go and buy ovens by the box, I guess, so to speak. It's already kind of all in one and you just plug it in kind of thing and go. But here's a message from today's sponsor.
RossKote here from Maui Powder Works. We've been providing customers with high-end custom coatings for over 20 years. We love the powder coating business. Making auto parts, patio furniture, and stuff beautiful for our customers is the fun part. As you know, the hardest part of any job is getting parts prepped for finishing. At times, this means removing tough industrial OEM coatings, which can take hours, if not days, of chemical stripping and sandblasting. Our business was revolutionized when we discovered the great strippers from Benco Sales. Their customer service folks asked the right questions and recommended a stripper tailored for our needs. Give them a call today at 1-800-632-3626.
Get 10% off any B17 products when you mention RossKote.
Right. So that right there is the last incarnation, or I want to say build 3, the large oven. And if you look at the rack inside of the oven, you can see that was the original size of the oven.
Right.
It was 8 feet high and it was 15 feet deep. And so what we had done, because we had a job that was coming that was larger, that we had to fit 9 foot, I believe, 8-inch height. And we were fitting something that was 36 inches wide. And so we basically always built the oven towards what we were doing. And there we have that oven build to that. And I had done some changes because the first and second rendition of the oven, I had all the elements on the back wall, and it just made sense to put them all in a line on the floor. And that was like, I should have did that right off the bat. That was one of the mistakes I made. It wasn't a mistake. It's just that this was way more efficient and it heated up the oven much more quickly. And we didn't need as much with a convection going through the oven to spread the heat around because it was already being spread around by all the elements being at the base there.
Yeah, and it was like Frankenstein. I mean, you can kind of see this right here, this line right here, you actually went, instead of having to rebuild the whole oven, I remember you contemplating what you did here and why this looks like this, these little inset panels. So you, like you said, you took it off the wall here, but you put these inset panels, and what you did was you jacked up the original oven, the original 10-foot oven, you jacked it up, and then you slid this new panel in underneath it.
We actually had a hoist on the back of the rear of the oven that went to where you can see the chevrons on the railing there.
Yeah.
The metal beams there. We actually attached a hoist to it, and we actually we screwed 2x4s onto the outside of the oven to attach that to, and we lifted up the back of the oven, and we had our friend come down with his forklift, and he lifted the front of the oven, and we lifted it completely up 3 feet up, and then we threw those pieces down in there, and then we caulked it and then set it down, and then we screwed it down. And there it was, all done.
Yeah. Because you didn't want to go back to what you did in the first iteration, which was cut yourself really bad by putting a new top on or the roof on.
Oh, no, it wasn't even about that. It was just about saving money.
Oh, okay.
I didn't want to order new sheet metal to rebuild it. So,
yeah.
And maybe that's what we should start talking about is well, before we talk about that, we should talk about power requirements, because a lot of people want to build their ovens and I've had some people call me and they go, oh, how'd you build your oven this big? And what's, can I just hook that up? What kind of power? And I'm like, whoa. Okay. First of all, you need to know what you're going to be powder coating. And then you need to know, well, okay, if I'm coating this thing, or let's say a railing or a gate, it's going to be how long and, how high. If you don't have to go 10 feet, don't go 10 feet. Go 8 feet, because the more cubic feet are inside the oven, that's more heating and more power requirements. So run an oven just like this that you see in the picture, which is pretty much like our new oven right now. Actually, the new oven's a foot wider.
Here's the new oven here.
Yes. So you can actually see the old rack.
Right. Yeah, it's got a lot of room in there now.
So
the other one was really tight.
And it's and look how much cleaner the new oven looks compared to the old oven, And I built this one completely different than all the other builds, but I still used the same concept. I kept the elements on the floor, but instead of putting them inside the sub panels, I actually just have them right there so you can disconnect it.
Yeah.
Real simply, if we have to move again, you just disconnect it and off you go. So I made this one much more user-friendly as far as being able to take it apart if I have to move again, because the other was basically destroyed in the move. So. And
the other one had, the other old one had elements on the back there, and sometimes we were always kind of it was getting tight there when you had a really large job. You were worried about hitting the back with
Yeah. I mean, there's anyway. So let's talk about power requirements for something like this. This oven is 10 feet high and it's 20 feet 1 inch long. So I made it purposely 1 inch longer so I could fit 20-foot pieces in there with no issue. And I'm very glad I did that, because I've already had 2 jobs this year where that happened. So, it's very important to don't skimp out and make the necessary requirements you need for your business. Now, to run this oven, you need 200 amps of power. And that's a lot of power. These ovens will run off single phase, but you can also run them off 3-phase. Basically, you have to figure out when you build these ovens, how much BTUs it needs to heat up the cubic feet. So you just go to a simple calculator, a BTU calculator, and figure that out.
This one here?
Yes.
Yeah, this is simpler, huh? 12 feet. There we go.
Yeah, that's the one you want to use.
Yeah, so let's do...
So let's just do our oven, for example.
Okay.
So its width is 5 feet.
Okay.
The length is 20. And the height is 10.
Okay. And then insulation good.
Yes.
Desired temperature increase or decrease.
Right. So I run my oven at target for 400 degrees. Go ahead, put that in. And calculate. So you need, right. Now, I don't have that amount of BTUs in my oven. I have double that. So, yes. So, and the reason why is because through the first build, I realized it would get up to temperature, but it would take like 4 hours for it to get up to temperature.
This one is faster.
So I doubled the amount of wattage. And because of that, it takes about an hour now to get up to temperature. So This is the only thing I want to say. If this is the bare minimum with this calculator that they're giving you. So you can make an oven that big with that amount of BTUs, but it's going to take 4 hours for it to get up temperature. And if you're that just takes all day. So, I like to come in at 7 o'clock in the morning, throw the oven on, and by 8 o'clock, we're ready to roll. So that said, through the builds I've done, I've realized I had to up the wattage. So
right.
I have, trying to remember how many elements are in there.
I can go count them really quick.
I got 8 and 9. I have 12. There's 12 in there.
Mm-hmm.
So there's 6 on each side. Each one of those elements are 3,000 watts.
Okay. And we're going to put in there where we bought them from.
Okay.
And you said that there's some elements that are better than others, the W ones, right?
There's a lot of different elements out there. I've had good luck with the Westinghouse ones, and there's I can't remember the other one we ordered, but they're cheap and they're easy to replace.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. So if you have an issue down the road, you can change them out. But I try to keep them all the same in the oven. So if you have to replace one, you can just one-off it, but it's probably a better idea to replace them all if you're going to do that, to keep the power all in line. So basically on this big oven, we have 2 powers coming into it. We have 100 amps coming into the rear where I have a controller, and it basically powers all the elements on the left-hand side, and then it powers up 2 in the very back on the right side. Mm-hmm. And then there's also another controller on the right side of the oven that controls 4 elements on the right side in the front. So, and that has 50 amps going to it. So this is a 150 amp oven, and we have 200 amps at our shop. So I still have another 50 amps of headroom for basically running the booth and the compressor, which is not a lot. So
no,
we're
running out.
Yeah. Ideally I would like to have 400 amps for my shop. Ideally I'd like to have 600 amps because, we're not talking about sandblasting and all that stuff too, because right. The sandblasters, the compressor for that takes tremendous amount of energy. So, but
okay, so this is back then. This is our first oven.
Yeah, that's the little oven, and boy, man, this thing, I don't know how old this thing is. It's so old, but it's I can pick that up. I can stand inside there and pick it up with my hands and walk it around. And I have put that thing in my truck and moved it, and just 50 amp service. That's all you need. Like I said, you can run single phase, 3-phase. It has 4 burners in there, and boom, that thing.
What is it? 7? Is it 7?
7 feet high. It's 4 feet deep, and it's 3.6 wide. So you got to remember, whenever you build these things, you have to build it out of sheet metal, and sheet metal comes in basically one size, 4 by 10 feet. And of course, the gauge is very important, and you want to get the right gauge. This is the first one I built, and I believe I built this out of 18 gauge. And it's very heavy. It doesn't flex much. And this actually was built with fiberglass insulation, and it's all original. I have just replaced the PID controller like 3 times on this. And the PID controller, you can see, is on the box there. It's that little square.
This thing.
Yeah. And those are about $40. So,
always have extra.
Always have. If you're only running one, have extra. Exactly. So this is good. You can see the power throw switch on the underside of that.
Right
and
here. Yeah.
down, keep going down,
This
down,
one.
down.
Oh,
down.
this. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a disconnect, and it's very important that you have those for code reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that way you can disconnect it, and then I even go one step further. At the end of the day, I just go to the breaker and turn it off. So,
well, you're mentioning like a really good, and let me just flash to today, okay? Because there's the same oven now. I don't know. Let's see. We built that in 2010. No. Yeah, 2010. Before that.
Before that, yes.
Yeah, this was the first oven. And I mean, it is something to consider, especially when you are moving, where you're growing really fast and you need to move into a new, because there's a lot of coders that are getting new places right now just because they're ready. We're kind of going through this next generation of garage coders that are now transitioning into a new commercial space, or has been in a small commercial space and now moving into a much, much larger space. And, you know, it's something to think about when you're building an oven, that you can build something to move it, right? To build something that's easier to move than maybe something that's bigger and too big to move, or where when you're limited with friends, you're limited with equipment, and you need to do this yourself. So this definitely has saved us many, many, many times. And you'll see later on in the podcast, we talk about our spray booth, how certain pieces of equipment have literally made our business.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, this is oh yeah. So
this is just pictures of like electric panels we were searching forever. So of course, anytime I saw a new place up on Craigslist to go look at, I would take pictures of the panel, and then Ross would go, nope, it doesn't work, not enough.
You want to make sure you have enough spaces for your basically your throw switches in there. And you can't tell this from the electrical panel, but if you pull the actual panel itself off of from where the breakers are, you can see if you have single phase or three phase, and it's real simple. Single phase has one wire coming down, and three phase has three wires coming down, and it's red, black, and blue. So for three phase, and single phase will just be black wire. So very important to know, because most larger equipment like compressors are all three phase. Most of the motors for doing for the booths are three phase. So you have to know what kind of phase your power is. I mean, if you're at home and you're doing this out of the garage, that's all single phase. So you're going to be stuck with like the Husky compressor and, stuff like that. So, but you can run a little oven out of your garage, like the one I built. And in fact, I actually ran when we were shut down with the COVID there, and we were in between. I did run the little oven out of our garage. So you have the amount of power available for it, and then you can hook it up. So anyways, that said, so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And we still, just real quick, literally like we do most of our jobs out of this oven, a lot of times.
I prefer actually working with the little oven because for rims and stuff, because it's more detailed oriented work doing with the rims. And it's like, it allows you to kind of slow your roll a little bit and basically say, okay, let's just do one rim at a time and really concentrate on perfection of the powder coating job, then instead of like turn and burn, where with larger commercial jobs, we'll turn and burn with the bigger.
Right. Now, that's a good point, especially when most guys just want to shove all four rims in at a time on their rack, and then all four of them, I think that maybe you might have defined something that makes you a little different than, I don't know, maybe some other coders out there where they're just trying to shove them all in there. When you're taking your time a little bit more one-on-one with each rim, then, you're going to have less failure, I guess. I don't know.
Less mistakes because you're concentrating on each rim.
Mm-hmm.
The flip-flop side is you're spacing your rims apart. So if you do one rim just a tad different than the next rim, you can have a mismatch. But for me, I'd rather do it that way because I hot flock a lot of the stuff, so it's really easy for me to just keep in a groove, boom, 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 and then I'm done with the job. So.
Here's a message from today's sponsor.
Do you know chemical strippers from Benko Sales reduced our prep time by up to 80%? We chose Benko B17 and have been using it now for 5 years. We were surprised at how effortless it removed finishes from literally anything we put into it. Removal takes minutes, not hours. Several suppliers over the years have told us they have something as good as B17, but don't believe it. There's a reason the name B17 is universally applied for those claiming to have fast strippers. Buy it by name and available only by Benko Sales. B17 is the industry benchmark by which every other stripper is compared. Accept no substitute. Get started today by going to benkosales.com. BEMCO sales.com.
Say RossKote sent you for 10% off B17.
Anyways, yeah.
Yeah.
And actually here you can see this is the first build of the big oven, and it's 10 feet by 8 feet. And I actually had all the elements in the back wall, and we were using convection basically to move the air around in the oven. And I really thought that was a great build, but it actually had cool spots in the oven. So we changed it out not too long after that. We only operated it like that for a little while.
Yeah, and I think what's key in this photo to me, or at least when I clicked on it, was like you could see we were still painting furniture back then. That's the old Marriott stuff.
Yeah,
and that's the old teak stuff we used to do. We had a resort account, and I mean, literally, we were still painting back then, and and powder coating, and then painting.
Yeah, I was like, hey, honey, we should try this powder coating. It might work out pretty well.
Yeah, and I was like, no, I need you to be my slave and help me with remodeling still. And you're like, no, I'm moving on, hun. It just hadn't clicked in my head yet that you were getting ready to move on.
Where are you going next? Okay, good.
Just more pictures of how proud you were. And, obviously it was kind of messy because it was getting kind of crowded in the shop because we were both battling for space between our remodeling business and, and then now the powder coating kind of starting to take on, and of course, I don't even think if you look back in here, had you even built the sandblasting machine, the sandblasting room yet?
Oh, it was in the booth over here against the wall in the room. Remember? Next to right over here.
Where?
The left. Remember?
Oh, this?
Yeah.
The closet?
The closet was the blast area.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
The closet.
The closet, yeah.
I thought that one went away a long time ago, but the first one was speaking of that closet, which was like about as big as a timeout room for your kid. It was like we bought a siphon feeder from Sears.
Eastwood.
Eastwood. Okay, that's what it was.
It was an actual pressure pot from Eastwood.
Okay. And I mean, that thing, we were over that in about 5 minutes because it got so dusty in there, you couldn't even see it.
Yeah. Well,
you couldn't even see what you were blasting.
Yeah. I was using that Black Beauty too. Oh God. Oof. Never again.
Never again. Not after this recent episode with Pete Mitchell from GMA. please watch that one, everybody, for your safety and health and your family and all that. So, but mistakes we were making back then. But it was a messy process, but we got through it, and you learned a lot in that time period. Let's see what's next. Okay, so this is kind of, I don't know why I put these pictures in. I
can see why you did that. So we had the elements in the back and the picture on the left against the back wall, and then we moved them we made the oven go up 3 feet. And there you can see the elements where they will go and those squares where the arrow is pointed. And we were basically finishing that. We still have to put the roof on the top. And
we raised the roof because look, it's past.
Yeah.
You hadn't raised it yet, but
no.
We were getting ready.
Quite an undertaking, yes.
And this time you had a friend.
Yes, I did. Mr. Ringstad. He's still around.
Yeah. So, to top off or cap off what this was in terms of like, you were insetting the panels so that you could even out.
Well, okay.
And make room.
I had to inset the elements because the rack at that time was literally scratching the inside of the walls. It was literally scratching. So if I had built the elements sticking out, it would have caught on the rack. So that was why I built that. But with the new build, the rack, I still am using the same rack, but I have literally 4 inches on each side now. So I built it differently.
Okay.
That was a really good way to build it, though. I was very happy with that.
Yeah, I mean, we solved many, many problems with that for sure. I didn't quite understand it or get it at first, but the way you did it, and you say by saving money, and you can kind of see a little bit here, is this is the exterior lower panel with those elements inside. So it kind of hung out on one side so that, it made sense after you were done.
So this is on the left-hand side here is a 50 amps running 4 burners. And you can see how it goes in, the power goes down to the lower wall and basically distributes to the 4 burners.
Right.
And the picture of the right is the big controller. It runs 8 burners, and that's it's a lot of wire you got to run through the walls. This wire is expensive. You can get it from Granger. You want to get the 16 gauge, and it's a heat sensitive wire. It's rated up to, I don't have those specs with me right now, but if I remember offhand, I think it's, I want to say it's like 800 degrees. So obviously
that sounds about right.
We don't go that high. So, but it's a heat sensitive wire. And in the original build, I actually put it through the walls.
Mm-hmm.
But the new build, I didn't do that. I made it so I can disconnect it if I had to. So because, we don't know if we're going to have to move again. And so, I said, well, I don't want to make this difficult if I have to do that again.
Yeah.
So,
this wire doesn't fail easily. I don't think we've ever had to replace it.
No, we ran this oven from 2012 to 2019 nonstop.
Yeah.
And no failures. I did replace the PID on this one. And I did replace, I did replace a burner on this oven. I did, yes. I remember that now.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. I think the only advice I have on that one in terms of ordering is make sure because you have to run so much wire in the oven, you want to make sure you order enough and almost quite a bit over. It
comes in spools of 250 yards, if I can remember correctly, and for 2 spools, and I had literally only 20 yards left over from of the 2 spools. So you will soak up all that wire real easily running in and around. It's amazing. So make sure when you order at least 2 spools of the Granger 16 gauge heat wire.
Yeah. you're talking like if you do a 20-foot oven.
A 20-foot oven, yeah. And if you're just building a little 4x4x6 or 7, one spool will get you, and you'll have leftover, no problem.
Okay, here's the second build. So this one's kind of interesting for me because you can see this powder coating job that we did, that we were kind of halfway through, I think.
No, I don't think we had started yet, because those lengths were
yes,
7.
but the first two were end pieces, and they were only 10 feet, but the next ones were 16
and 17 feet. And
right. I'll let me stop sharing my screen so I can share with you like how big the project was, because I think at that point that was like literally going to be the biggest job we'd ever had. It was like 200 linear feet of trellis at the Whalers Village in Kaanapali, and the end pieces were just 10 feet. There were couple end pieces, so I know that's why that picture has that in there. It's just the end pieces. They were the shortest pieces, but most of them were 16. And I think what did you build the oven to that day?
20 feet.
Okay, so I thought you had done a 15-footer or something in there.
Yeah, we went from 10 feet to 15 feet to 20 feet, and then we went up.
Mm-hmm. So what was nominal about, or anything you want to talk about on this build, that you just basically got rid of that convection thing?
Well, this is basically, we're getting ready. We went up with the oven. I know that.
No, yeah.
Because I know some of those pieces were 9 feet high. So that's why we went up. But yeah, we did the smaller pieces that you see there. But other than that, with the oven, this is the complete final build. We went 20 feet by 10 feet. So,
and this right here is that lower level panel, which you raised, lifted up the oven, and that right there, what you're seeing is
it's 2x6 studs put together with sheet metal that have a smaller wall inside of it. So it's basically two walls within one. It was very difficult to build, but it was very effective, and it allowed me to just hook up the oven. Yeah,
here you go. You can kind of see the studs and what this looks like after.
Yeah, generally with any build you do, it's just going to be metal studs, and those right there, that's a typical 2x4x8 stud, metal stud. And you just basically, like you're going to build a wall, you put those 16 inches apart and down the length of your build, and there's a couple ways you can put the sheet metal on. You can go lengthwise or horizontally, but I prefer, it doesn't really matter, but sometimes it depends on how you're building your oven. So you have to take these things in consideration when you're building it. And obviously, if it's 4 by 10 feet, the sheet metal, and you build your oven 5 feet wide, that means you have to build smaller sections for your roof to cover the space. Because if the reason I built it originally by 4 by 10 is because I could just put one piece of 4 by 10 top on top of it and set it in place. And, that worked good, but it was a big piece. It was heavy. I needed 3 people to put it up there, and I cut my fingers pretty bad on that. So, anyways.
And this wood is just for support. You didn't keep it in there. You're just supporting it while you were in.
Yeah, we were using that for support because there was, it was basically freestanding, and we used a large beam on the top to actually have the forklift to lift it up. And the other ones are just keeping the walls tied together. You can see on the inside there. So.
Right. I guess, and did you say how thick the sheet metal should be?
I recommend, it just depends on the thicker, the better. But obviously cost has a lot to do this. And I think the The thinnest you want to go is 20 gauge. But what you want to do ideally is be 16 or 18 gauge. Once you go over 20 gauge, it takes 2 people to handle it. It's heavy.
Yeah.
And that's stuff you have to keep in mind. If you're by yourself, go with the 20 gauge. It's easier to handle. Also, you're going to need some sort of shears to cut the metal. If you have to do, if you're making a 6-foot oven, you have to be able to cut the metal. So there's a couple ways you can do that. You can get some nibblers and nibble it across, do a shock line and do that. If you don't, what I did is I actually used skill saw and I just put a metal blade in it and just chalk the line and cut it. It makes it's quick, it's fast. Just make sure you wear gloves and safety goggles.
Always.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this was just sort of towards the end here. We hadn't raised the ceiling, but then once we were done with that, this is sort of mid-build, but this was after. Like, it was just huge. Like, after it was done, we realized we were in awe at how big it was.
Well, we were putting big pieces in there.
Yeah. Nowadays, so because I know you've kind of done a little bit of different stuff in terms of the batting or the insulation. So let's talk about that.
Definitely. Well, on all these previous incarnations, I was using just typical fiberglass bat, like Owens, Corning, fiberglass bat, the pink stuff. It's basically rated up to, I think, 700 or 800 degrees. So you can use that. It's cheap. It's easy to put in there. But man, it's itchy. It's like wearing fiberglass underwear. It's insane. You got to wear gloves and a face mask when you're installing that stuff in. So that stuff is cut just like a normal 16-inch width. So that's why you have to build your walls like a normal wall for a house, because the batting will all fit in those.
Right. Good point.
On the new oven, I switched. I went from fiberglass insulation bat to what they call rock wool, and rock wool is rated for, I believe, 2,000 degrees, and it's way more dense. It holds heat way better. It is more expensive, but it is definitely worth the price because our new oven gets up to temperature real quick and it holds the heat. I'm totally impressed with the rock wool. So build your stuff out of that. It's real
stuff. It's made out of sheep.
I'm not sure what it's made out of. I don't know.
You're not sure?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it. They just call it rock.
It looked like sheep. It
does. It's some sort of mineral wool.
Mineral wool. Maybe that's
I'm
okay.
Not sure exactly what it is, but it's really good stuff. It's easy to cut. It is itchy. It's not as itchy as the fiberglass, but it is still itchy. And good stuff, though. Yeah.
So to kind of wrap up the oven and some key points here that you made, and aside from the building materials side, is number one, that first mistake we made with was the cold spots, right? And
it really wasn't a mistake. What it was is efficiency. So
efficiency, right?
So I made it more efficient oven by putting it throughout the floor, through the whole oven, made it way more efficient. Heated up the oven much quicker. Heat rises, obviously. So there you go. And it, if you don't, the less air you got blowing around in your oven, the better off your stuff is going to look. So,
right.
Electric, once it gets going, it is very stable. You don't have hot spots and cold spots like other ovens, and it's a great conduit for doing powder coating, specifically if you're in an area like we are, where propane is all you can get, and it's very expensive to run. So that said, there you have it. So maybe we should just kind of go over everything you need to build an oven. And I guess, you have like the main controller. You can order that online. You can go through TC Electric and get that. And We'll also put the links up for that. You can get the elements there from them too, or you can go to Amazon and get the elements. So basically, you know, the controllers are set up to run 4, 6, or 8. And then it's just a matter of you figuring out how big you want to build your oven. Obviously, if you go 20 feet by 10 feet wide by 10 feet tall, that is going to need an incredible amount of energy. And you will not be able to run that with just one controller. They'll have to take probably 3 or 4 controllers to do an oven like that. But it can be done. And you got to think about how you're going to lay out all your elements. You might want to probably double stack them if you're going to build something like that. I've had no need to build an oven that wide. 5 feet width has been just fine because most of the stuff we do is railings and gates and stuff like that. So it's we're going for more of the linear than the horizontal width. So you need door latches. You need door seal.
Door seal. I always forget the name of that. Yeah.
Yeah. And and what I did on the most recent build, which I think is critical, is I bought like a couple cases of silicone. Silicone rubber is rated up to 400 degrees, no problem. And you can get the high temp silicone, just like what we use for our silicone plugs to plug everything. You can get high temp silicone rubber in the caulk. And basically every sheet that I put up on the oven, I put a thin layer of silicone where it's being attached to the studs. So when you screw that in, it just sucks right up to it and it sticks, and you have zero air gap there. It's no air is getting out through that area there.
Yeah, and if your floor is uneven too.
Yeah, we had an extremely in our old shop it was very even, but our new shop that we're in now, the floor was out 1 inch.
Yeah.
From the back to the front. And so I basically built the walls out, and I put as it became uneven, I was putting 2x4s, not 2x4s, plywood. I started with 1/2 inch plywood, and then I went 2 layers of 1/2 inch plywood. And then I remember at the very end there, I had a 2x4 holding up the edge of where the door was going to go. And what I did is I basically, I screwed it down with the wood in place, and then I cut the wood away, and then we siliconed it all in where that was. But that's only on a very large oven build. You might have that problem. And I don't think you'll have that problem in the mainland because most builders are.
This building is old, and I'm sure it's settled.
Right. It's just built bad.
It could have been just built like that, but yeah, and I guess what we have learned from electric oven point of view, because I know a lot of guys have the propane and the nat gas, is we actually, aside from the fact that we have to pay more for gas, we actually learned how to efficiently build our electric oven. And in addition to that, we're in a commercial space, so we get commercial electric rates, not residential, which is generally cheaper for businesses. Now, at least that is here in Hawaii. I don't know if it's the case on the mainland. Might be a little different there, but I want to show you our electric bill more as we've gotten busier in these last months, now that that our state is becoming more open and more busier. I want to let you know that we made a lot of money last month. We made about $30,000. I think it was a little over that actually. And I want to show you our electric bill for the month of May, where we did all that business, which is why Ross is so friggin' tired all the time. We basically spent $942. Let's see, where is that? There we go. Can you see that? I think it's backwards. Is it backwards or can you see it?
It's there. It's on there. Yep.
So you can kind of see the jump. Obviously, we've been getting busier. Of course, when Ross uses the small oven, we don't pay as much. But when the big oven is running, which it did practically all last month, we only paid $940. And we made 30 grand. So we're not just talking to be different here. We're talking because we really do believe that electric is the way of the future. I personally think that regulations in terms of like business and stuff, eventually they're gonna, I don't want to say they're gonna outlaw propane and nat gas, but it's kind of like where the industry wants to go, and they want us all on electric. They're trying to outlaw this, methane and CO2 levels and all these environmentalists and stuff. So, we're not saying switch today or switch tomorrow, but just keep this up on your radar, because we've been very successful with our electric oven. And, if you're thinking about building an oven or getting a new one, think about doing this for your business. You might be surprised at how efficient it is, how evenly, compared to like propane and stuff, how even the cook is. And then of course, the big surprise is how nice your electric bill is when you're doing lots of money, making lots of money.
Right. I agree. And you have the benefit of safety with no open flame in your shop.
True.
And also you're not creating carbon monoxide because of the open flame. So, carbon monoxide poisoning, you don't know. Unless you have a carbon monoxide alarm, you don't know if you're getting poisoned or not. So it's something nice to know electric oven. We do make these out of sheet metal, and there is, the Galvy sheet metal. If you get it too hot, it actually makes some type of hydrochloric acid and a gas. And I never really run my big oven over 400 degrees. I always at about 380, and it works really good. And
because you can bake a roast in the oven, and you're using practically the same material, and you can put it up to 550 degrees if you wanted to, right? I mean,
well, I've done a little research on galvanized metal and what at certain temperatures at high heat, it's actually can be dangerous for you. And I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
So make sure that when you build these, you don't want to be doing like Cerakote, where you're getting up to 700 degrees to do that. You have to make it out of like a different material. It can't be galvanized sheet metal is what I'm saying.
Okay. So let's move on. Let's go way back then. This is your first build out. So this room was behind the oven and behind the spray booth that you saw in those earlier pictures. So how big was this one?
It's 7 feet wide. And it's 8 feet tall, and it's 10 feet deep. And I used 3 dustless vapor lights you can buy at Home Depot. Those lights are basically explosion proof and dust proof, and they're about $100 each. They're expensive, but easy to wire up. Very bright. You can actually get them down on the side, but I have found just putting 3 lights or 4 lights up there works just fine. I built the table is basically metal studs that are.
Yeah, I have a.
No, just keep it right.
I have another close-up picture of the table.
There you go. You can see. I actually, when I first built it, I just used the metal studs, but as I later found out it was easier to put wood, I'd use a 2x4 wood, and then I would encapsulate it with the metal studs so it gave it strength. Putting heavy things up there, and basically that's a really cheap, easy way to build a metal table without breaking the bank. I just use regular chicken mesh wire. in this first build here, you can see the chicken mesh for the sandblasting. I basically use expanded metal now. It's a little more expensive, but it lasts a lot longer. The chicken mesh works, but you got to change it out about it just depends on how much you're sandblasting. So,
what's this orangey stuff you put? You got that at Home Depot.
Yeah, that's basically tile mat. You put that down for laying tile to keep it more quiet. And I just put it up there because it was wood and I wanted it to look cool. So I put that up there. But I didn't do that on the new build. I just kept it wood. But I do use metal for all the walls in the back because, the sandblast is very abrasive. And if you have wood, it's just going to eat it away.
Eat it away, yeah. Well, I think you put this on there because you were worried about the neighbors finding out. It was important to have it soundproofed a little bit because people could hear you next door, and we were kind of in a hoity-toity neighborhood rather than like where we are now.
Yeah, so I built this pretty much just like how I build the ovens. I actually even used fiberglass insulation on the walls. It's all metal studs, and it's just like an oven, basically, except for the outside of the walls are wood instead of metal to save money. Where an oven, you got to have the whole thing metal. The blast room and the booth are all wood. So
what's this little hole here?
That's the dust collector hole. So this is the first blast room, and I have a 2 horsepower dust collector on the other side of that wall pulling in, and it worked pretty good. But then I went to the 5 horsepower, and whoa, that was nice. So, and we got a picture of that, don't we?
Maybe.
I saw it. So yeah, this is so I use basically this is my dead man switch, which is it's not OSHA approved.
No.
And if you got an employee, you got to have a dead man. But I do everything myself. And the dead man weighs literally a pound. And when you're holding a pound on top of all that other stuff you're holding, it wears your shoulders out so quick. So I went to just doing this. And this is actually my first incarnation of that. It's all brass, you can see, or copper. And now I use stainless steel, and it lasts a lot longer. And I went to a boron head. That's just a regular ceramic head. And those things, I mean, if you use a regular ceramic nozzle, that thing will last only like, 3 times, and you got to throw it away. Where I'm not sure where I got it, but the head I got now, I've had it for 3 years, and it's still going.
The tungsten one, I saved the link. I'm gonna put it in the vault page.
The tungsten carbide, that's right. So that, and I use a 300-pound pot. You can see there in the picture, and of course the Nova blast hood, and the Nova. Okay, so those Nova hoods are expensive, and you're talking $500 for the hood, and you got to get what type of breathing apparatus are you going to get? So this is very important.
Hey, Powder Coating Nation, Kim Scott here. It's time to grow your business with us. The Powder Coating Near Me directory can get your powder coating shop the real exposure it needs to succeed when you list your job shop today. Join a list of top custom coaters who've listed their credentials to be discovered by the customers who are searching for powder coating every day. Head over to powdercoatingnearme.com, click Add a Coating Shop, and start creating your very own page for free. Yes, free. You can add your logo, name, address, phone number, map listing, social media links, photos, video, and more. When you submit your listing, we'll get notified and approve you right away. Now you can add all the categories you specialize in, and even add your own tags. Get the SEO and valuable backlinks your company needs for authority and getting ranked. You can even use the link you create and share it to your favorite social media profiles to build legitimacy as a custom coder. What are you waiting for? Become part of the largest consumer search directory in powder coating in the world, all for free. Find and click the link in this podcast or go to powdercoatingnearme.com to get started growing your brand today.
There's two types of air you can have. You can have your compressor that is basically an electric compressor, or you can have, a lot of these guys have diesel compressors. And you have to be very careful. If you're getting your air to feed to your helmet from a diesel compressor or even an electric compressor, you can get carbon monoxide poisoning from that. So it's best just to buy and spend the money. It's like $1,000. They actually make a low pressure volume unit that you can put outside in the clean air of your shop, and then it runs air to your helmet. And that's what I've been running. It works great. I've been doing this for so long, and I've only replaced it once.
Mm-hmm.
And that's $1,000, and then the helmet's $500. So
yeah.
And I don't buy the gloves that they sell. Those leather gloves just don't work for beans. I go and get rubber coated gloves for my hands, and those work great. They last forever, and you don't burn through them like the leather. So I recommend that. That's cool.
Yeah, we'll put that in the vault as well. It's going to be probably a PDF or something that you can download, and we'll keep adding to it.
This is pretty much still the setup I use. It's a 5/32 nozzle.
Well, let me see. I think I have an updated picture here. Okay, what's that?
That's the 5 horsepower. So I went from the 2 horsepower to the 5 horsepower dust collector, and we put in so the dust comes in from, and it goes into that bucket where the square is, and then it goes to the dust collector.
Second, filter.
Yeah, the second one, and that works really good. You can go. So this works good for the amount of, you have to figure out how much space you have by cubic feet, and then what type of pressure you're running your blast nozzle, and then you have to figure out the air and how to clear it out. And this is actually right on the money for the size of the room we had. But I know right now I'm actually a little undersized. We need to be up to about 10 horsepower. So because I expanded the blast room.
That's our next.
And that's our next big thing.
This is what it looks like today. This is our today thing. And we actually, just so you know, we actually recycled when we built. We realized we were gonna try to save the old oven and rebuild it when we built this place, this new place. But I think you kind of realized, nah, I'm over it. And so we took the walls from the old oven, and we actually repurposed them to build our powder coating. I mean, our sandblasting booth. Yeah.
Do you have a picture of the outside of it?
I don't, but you know what? I can add one really quick.
It's just like, everything I've been saying, it's pretty simple to build. I forgot to say this earlier on the oven build, but you use sheet metal screws, self-tapping sheet metal screws.
Okay.
And we need to show pictures of what I use. It's real simple. You don't have to drill any holes. You just put dots where you want to put the thing. You set the drill right up to it, and you're in. So that's how we build all this stuff, is with sheet metal screws.
Right. And so the outside of this building is, well, first of all, the outside of the building is of this room is just all wood. Plywood. Yeah.
Right. And this was a lot easier to build because obviously it's 8 by 10 by 20. So
yeah, I think the only thing I don't like about it is the window is too small. But you use this visqueen, so I can't see you anyways. So you actually built, why is this visqueen here?
Well, because the dust collector is designed for basically a room that's half the size of it.
Okay.
So that's why I have it there, to kind of keep so that it doesn't get too crazy. So, but as you know, I've been using when I have a large railing that I got to do, I just move the visqueen and blast away. I need to upgrade. and have a more powerful dust collector.
Yeah, and that's our next. We're getting ready for that. We're definitely it's the one thing I've learned on this podcast is how important your blast setup is. It's almost more important than your spray booth and your oven. I hate to say
it definitely is. You wanna be healthy. You don't want spend the money, buy the nice blast helmet. The Nova helmets are awesome. You don't get any material inside you. Buy a nice suit. I do one more step. Even though I'm wearing this nice suit, I'll put tape around my gloves and my hands and my feet just to keep the stuff from coming into the suit. And I bring a spare set of clothes with me when I'm done. Because it's dusty stuff, and you have to.
Gets in there.
Your health is more important than anything. So.
Yeah, and I want to talk about that for a second, because I did talk about it on this previous episode, episode 36 with Pete Mitchell, and we kind of talked about beryllium, but I want our listeners to hear from the horse's mouth what it feels like to not feel good.
If you're coming out of the blast room and all of a sudden you feel like you're achy and like a cold is coming on, you're sick. You just got some type of beryllium poisoning or something. That's what it feels like. It's like, oh, I don't feel so good, and you get achy and
joints hurt. It's like you're coming down with the flu. You're coughing.
I had when we first used the Black Beauty, I got super sick. I remember I was down for like 3 days, and so you don't want to use that. And I just stay with Garnet. Garnet works really good. I'm very happy with it. It cuts everything from rusted surfaces to stuff that's been painted. Now, obviously, if you got something that's totally powder coated, I don't think there's anything that can cut through that. I mean, I've used a lot of stuff, and I have not come up upon a product that can cut through powder coat. And we just strip it. We strip it. That's just the way it is. If somebody brings me a big beam that needs to be stripped, I strip it and then I sandblast it. But if you're going to go there and sandblast something powder coated, it'll take you days to get it done.
Well, you don't want to be in there longer than you have to.
No, and that's another thing. It's even with all the proper equipment, you only want to be in there probably 2 to 4 hours at the most.
Yeah. And stripping sucks. I mean, it's smelly and it's nasty, makes your stomach churn.
Yeah. So So anyways,
just have that proper ventilation.
The build of this is real simple, and it's the same thing. You want to just make it airtight. Obviously, you do need, with the blast room, because you're sucking air with the dust collector, you need to be able to have air come in. So make sure when you build your room, you have some type of intake. Like, for example, you can see in the picture on the left at the very back of the wall.
Yeah,
that's the air basically getting sucked from the dust collector.
Yeah.
I made this with basically 4-inch PVC piping that goes to the dust collector. And you saw the other picture of the dust collector, so you can kind of.
Here's a tiny little. I think this is maxed out, but you can kind of see the bottom of it right here.
Now, on the old build, I had 2 holes in the roof at the entrance of the booth. But on this build, the door actually has a 1-inch gap at the bottom, so it allows the air in. So.
Okay. And full disclosure, here is a big stack of 10X that we had just gotten. So when this picture was taken, we were trying out the 10X product, which we still have. And we use occasionally. It's not our go-to, but I think everybody kind of knows that now after episode 36. But anyways, it's just kind of ironic. We're talking about blasting and beryllium and safety and your blast setup and everything. And here's a big stack of it, of 10X. So just pointing it out in case anybody wants to call me out. All right. I love this. This is the money maker because we've owned this thing since 2004. We got it December of 2004. we used it all through our, it cost us $5,000, and the reason why it's twice as much as what it costs online today, the price hasn't really changed that much, but it took just as much money to ship it as it did to buy it. So it's $5,000. We had to build it ourselves. It's an open face. This is what you call an open face spray booth. And that big long tube is what we used to connect to. There was a vent up at the top. And of course, when we were spraying liquid paints, we needed that because the vapors needed to escape and stuff. We still use it today in its modified version, but this thing, I counted it up one time, and this thing has made us over, I want to say almost over $2 million in the last, almost 20 years?
Oh, it's more than that.
More than that.
More than that.
It's more than that. But we have made so much money. But anyways, I think you kind of was there anything you wanted to say on this one?
Okay, yeah, so it's an open face industrial booth. It has a 3 horsepower motor on it that needs 3-phase power. You need 20 amps to run that. And I basically took this and converted it into a real powder coating booth. Now, this worked fine for doing small parts, because you can actually go inside the booth and it sucks the powder up. But when you're doing a big railing and you're 16 feet long or 20 feet long, you're powder coating outside of that booth area and it's just going everywhere.
Right.
And
here's the picture of what he's talking about.
So yeah, I built this, and here we go with the explosion-proof, dust-proof lights. And it's just basically all electric galvy piping for the electrical. That's the original booth in the back.
Yeah, it's all that's left of it, really.
And I did make this all out of 10-foot 2x4s and the metal studs, that is. And it's all wood. But what I did is I went to Home Depot, like I always do, and they had this lining, this white plastic lining. This is for garage doors, for the inside of a garage door. And it's plastic. You can wash it down. It's beautiful. It's easy to work with. And I just used the self-tapping metal screws and just screwed it right in, hold it up. It was kind of a pain in the ass to do the ceiling, but, you can build it. I mean, I don't know. Those things are expensive. So I built it myself. And,
and that sheeting, I don't even know how much is that sheeting? It's like $15 a panel, or is it more like 30?
It was like 26, I think, a sheet. So, there's $500 there. Boom, to do the.
I know that this product is in the trim section at Home Depot. So like when you're looking for wall trim or quarter round or any of that, they'll have it below those pieces of wood, and it's in the it's sheeting. They call it sheeting, SHEETING, and it's for wall wainscoting.
Right.
But basically, you're right. It's the stuff that goes on the inside of a garage door.
Yeah, and actually, this was a large build because the oven obviously is narrower. So my pieces, my whole rack needs to fit in here. So my rack is, let's just say it's 4 feet wide. This is a 10-foot width. It doesn't look like it with the picture, but it's 10 feet, and that's 20 feet deep to from where the filters are all the way up.
You need to walk around.
Yeah, and you got to have enough room to walk around, make room. And a lot of the booths, I always see the lighting's on top, and that just didn't make any sense to me. And I put these all on the side, and I love it. I have zero. In fact, I have so much better rates of perfectness now because
coverage.
Because I'm seeing everything now.
Yeah.
And it's like if I have a problem, I just turn off one side and then let the one side show, and vice versa. You can still go in there with your LED and do that,
right.
But I don't do that anymore. I got plenty of light.
You don't have your little headlamp on anymore?
Nope. not with this setup. It's
Yeah.
pretty nice. I really like it. Very happy with it. I think this cost us, I want to say about $3,000 to build.
Something, yeah.
You
Around
know,
that.
but I did have the old booth to do that, and I did convert it to a complete powder coating setup, and I did this with what was the name of that company? JB's. I don't remember. JB's.
We'll look it up. It'll be in the vault.
They're in Pennsylvania, I believe.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
And anyways, he builds booths and ovens, and I basically called him up and said, "Yeah, I want to convert my my open face industrial booth oven to a powder coating booth." Excuse me. And basically, we got rid of all the plume that goes through to the ceiling, and we got one of these box setups, and of course the new filters. And boy, this thing works great. I love it. There's our shop is so clean now compared to the way it used to be, and it's just much easier to powder coat in this setup. So, and you can build these out to however big you want them or how small you want them, but you can see with the white, it makes it very bright in there. There is maintenance involved with cleaning, and other than that, you're good to go. Yeah.
So do you remember how much you spent? I mean, you said 3,500, but I'm almost thinking it was like closer to $5,000, because with these lights.
Yeah. Well, the lights are $100 each. And
they were more than that. They were more than that.
Yeah. Sure. So it adds up real quick, but you could probably order this booth, in the mainland for cheaper than building it. But because we have the shipping issue here in Hawaii, this makes total sense.
I was just trying to think of what the breakdown was for this most recent build in terms of like, how much did this cost to build? Yeah, we're ad hocing a little bit with the filtration system, which we already had, but how much did the booth cost? We bought the components for the booth ahead of time because we were already planning on building the booth out. Anyways, on there, whenever, and we always carry extra of everything because chances are if something's going to go out, it's going to go out right in the middle of a large job, where you're just stuck getting it done. I think, do you remember how much you spent on the oven this time?
Oh, the oven was definitely like $6 grand.
Yeah,
$6 grand, definitely. That's why I'm saying this is about $3, $5, $4 grand. Without the obviously the blower and the back wall there that you see with all the filtration. So,
that's about right because so my small little office, which is about 150 square feet, cost $5,500 to build when it was all said and done with all the remodeling we did. We spent about $6 grand on the oven and about $5 grand on the new spray booth. And we are at and then we really didn't put too much into this sandblasting setup because
that was all recycling.
Yeah, we were upcycling our old stuff with it, and then we already had the equipment. So, but all in all, I think we were at about 16,000.
Yeah, so it'd be safe to say you could build all this for about $25,000.
Yeah,
and you're off to the races. So there's other components you'll need like a compressor and stuff that you have to add into the mix, and which is expensive, and the dust collector and stuff like that. So a good 10 horsepower dust collector is going to run you about 10 grand, and a good.
It's not cheap getting into this business.
And you need, I think, pretty much a minimum size compressor for sandblasting, you need, at least 30 horsepower. So that way you can run a 1/4-inch nozzle, and that's going to cost you $5,000 minimum.
Yeah. So, definitely, at least that. But the number one thing, check the electric panel.
Yeah.
Number one thing.
If you guys are really thinking about getting into this business, you need minimum 200 amps. I mean, at a minimum. And that means you won't be able to operate your oven and sandblast at the same time, unless you've got propane running, oven and a diesel fired, compressor. But if you're running all your stuff electrically, you need to have a lot of amperage. So,
yeah, and we didn't talk about the compressor you used. Do you want to touch up on that? I mean, it's a Ingersoll Rand that we bought a long time. We got a good deal on it. Yeah,
it's basically what I was getting at when we were talking about in the sandblast room. Currently, with that compressor, I can use a 5/32 nozzle, and that because the horsepower is a 10 horsepower Ingersoll Rand. It puts out 44 CFM. So you can use a 5/32 size nozzle on that. It works. It blasts. It does a great job. But I need to go bigger. Sandblasting it's better to have more power. So I do have a 30 horse compressor sitting and waiting in my shop, but I don't have enough power to hook it up. So this is a mistake that I've made. I'm like, oh wow. So I can run the compressor, but I can't run anything else. So it's kind of a bummer. So if you're getting your shop, you want to have these issues all ironed out and not have those kind of problems. So obviously I need more power, and we're looking at expanding. So hopefully I'll have that situation fixed or remedied here soon. So
I think, people hear the podcast, they know this thing is right behind me and it's going all the time, especially when you're blasting. Would you like to comment on abrasive media?
I already did. Use Garnet. Garnet's the stuff. That's what
What's been your experience with 10X?
Okay. They called me up and it sounded really good. This stuff will burn through powder coat like you won't believe. And I was like, really? And I was like, okay. I go, well, I want to try it out. I'm always into new stuff. So they sent us the stuff, and I put it. I remember I depleted the bag, and I wasn't even doing powder coating stuff. I was just doing. You saw the picture. We were doing that.
Yeah,
we're doing the car parts.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is why that was in there.
And this is, I did a whole car. I did the hood.
Right.
All the panels, and and I had done literally, I would say about 80% of it with Garnet, and then I had run out, and it was time to change. And so I put the 10X in, loaded it up, and run it with the 5/32 nozzle with the pot at 90 psi. That's where I always sandblast like that. Because I never really go over 90 psi because if sometimes, like when you're doing door panels like this, you have to bring it down, or you have to step back from the project so you don't warp the metal. So that said, I got in there, I started blasting, and I did not see dramatic results like they said. So I was like, okay. In fact, it took me 2 pots to do a hood, and I figured it would have been 1 pot. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm just having a bad day. So, that said, I got out of the blast room, wasn't too impressed with it. But then later on, I started not feeling well. I was like, I was all achy. And I said, that's interesting, because I've been blasting with Garnet and I never have this problem. I just get sweaty and sticky and, salty. That's about it. So, I blasted with it again the next day, and consequently a few more times. it did seem like it had less dust than the garnet at first, but then once it broke down, it was just as dusty as garnet is. And, you know, so to me, the most important thing was I started not feeling well. And I was like, okay, I'm going back to the garnet because, you know, I've been using that for years and I don't have a problem with it. And, you know, maybe that's just me. I don't know, but no problem with it. And I just went back to it. I don't want to use that other stuff. To me, it basically took just as long, if not longer. It was just as dusty, if not dustier. And it costs $40 a bag.
Well,
So,
that's what we came to, even with, you know, like it was retailing for us here in Hawaii at like $42. And, you know, we seriously thought about trying to make this a side business where we could sell it. And, you know, once, you know, it wasn't just, you know, it was like sort of like the icing on the top was once we realized how much people, you know, when they can buy something cheaper, it was really going to be hard to make it work for selling it to the industry.
Basically, you know, when I first started, the first thing I used was Black Beauty. And that stuff got me sicker than a dog. And I said, we got to change. And at that point, I started looking at alternatives. And one of the first things I bought was aluminum oxide. Aluminum oxide, 80 mesh or 70 mesh, somewhere in there, will cost you about $40 a bag. And I was like, wow, that's expensive, you know, because, you know, you load up your pot, that's, you know, it takes 5 bags if you're running a 300-pound pot. And I was like, man, this is expensive to do this because you can only run it like 6 to 8 times and then you got to throw it out the door, right? So, you know, you start doing the math that way, it's like, this is not working, not at this price point. And that's
all I add in the health thing.
No, I don't want to talk about any of that. I just want to talk about price because if you're just looking at strictly at price, this does not work. I don't want to talk about anything. I don't want to get into any of that other stuff, but it doesn't work at that price, you know? So you're better off just going buying pulverized glass, you know, at $8 a bag, you know, and go kill yourself. Okay. Next subject.
All right. Next subject, fails.
Okay. So on the left there was my dolly for sandblasting wheels and rims because I got tired. I was like, oh, it's so hard to move it. And it was a great idea. And it actually worked really good. But what happened is I found out is the wheel wasn't grounded to the table and I was getting shocked all the time. Fail.
Fail.
I mean, I got shocked bad. I was like, whoa, what the hell?
Right. And then, do you remember this job?
I don't really. You were telling me about it, and I kind of remember a little. It had foam, I guess, in this, and I remember. Oh yeah, because
the door was kind of bent or something. You could peek in there, and it had foam, and so, but we ended up blasting it all, stripping it all first, and then blasting it, only to come to realize there was no way we were going to take the risk of putting it in the oven.
That was a command decision for me. I wasn't sure because I know some of that closed cell foam, it can actually melt and become liquid at certain temperatures, and so I just didn't want to deal with the mess in my oven.
It was the spray stuff,
and it was sprayed in, and I just didn't want to deal with it. So I basically told the guy, go get this primed and painted because.
Right. So we got it to a point where they could take it from there.
Yeah,
but,
we helped them out, and I thought it was good advice. But that was
would have been a nice job, but didn't work out.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, if anything, it's just to kind of put perspective on everything, that not every job is perfect. I mean, this job, we were looking forward to this job. Look how beautiful these doors would have been, just all powder coated and nice. And
you know, what's funny is the metal is thicker than normal, which should have led me to believe, why is it thicker than normal? And I should have looked at that and looked inside those holes there and go, oh, there's foam in there. But I didn't do that. I just said, I was just so happy to get the job. I was like, yeah, let's. I didn't look at that. So, I think the moral of the story is basically you want to look at your job completely before you take it. Make sure that you got a place to hang it from. Make sure the metal is sturdy enough that it doesn't flex around and do weird things.
Oh, we just had that fail. I should probably put that one up.
Yeah, exactly. So these are things you got to think about when you're doing these jobs, because they can come back and bite you or create problems in your workflow.
Yeah, that was the first time that I actually saw the warpage on that really thin sheet metal. So we had some HVAC material come in bent. It was bent in, I guess they bent it that way. It's trim pieces in this condominium that they're remodeling. And
it was just the heat. It was the
heat. So it does happen. I mean, I don't know if anybody heard about it doing that, but it's just kinetic energy. And if you hit it hard and long enough, it's.
Kinetic energy is with sandblasting.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
It was just the heat.
Oh, the heat did it. Okay. I thought you bent it that way. Yeah.
Bent the metal and it wouldn't reform back. Generally speaking, I've had that happen, but it reforms back. Like I've done like big signs that we've done with sheet metal, and it bends a little bit, but as soon as it comes out, it cools, it goes back into place. But this did not happen with the HVAC stuff that we were doing. So yes, that was something I was like, that was a fail that just recently happened.
Yeah. One of the other stories is, remember when we had that pretty big jobber come in and they were doing that Chapango, remember, and they picked out this nasty metal that was sitting out.
Old metal that was already basically, it looked like it was on the bottom of a boat that was all electrolyzed. I mean, to the point it was pitted beyond belief. And they were like, we want to use this sheet. This is the only sheet on the island. And I said, this is bad metal, guys. And, I sandblasted it clean, but it still didn't matter because the pitting was so bad that when we heated it up, where all those pitting, it just bent.
Bubbled and bent,
and bubbled.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And then on top of it, the designer picked an interior powder, which never in Hawaii do you pick an interior powder.
Well, I told them that too. I said, where's this going? And they're like, oh, in the hallway, it's in the shade.
Yeah, no.
Nothing's in the shade in Hawaii.
No, even when it's in the shade. Yeah. Well, that about wraps it up. I mean, if you guys have a situation where you want to talk to Ross, again, go back to become a patron and you'll get 1 free hour. This is just a limited time only. If you sign up to be an avid listener, we're going to give you a 1 hour free talk on the phone, chat with Ross if you've got any booth problems, powder coat problems. I
just want to basically reiterate here that if you have just general building skills, or you know how to use a drill, and you know how to use a level, and you can build an oven. You can do that. You can do it yourself. But if you don't have those basic skills, don't try it. It's a headache. It'll be a headache. But
get some help. You
can get some help. Yeah, you can actually, if you got a friend that knows how to build a wall, get them in there, and it's real simple. We'll put all the links for you to buy all the stuff. It's stuff you can get right off the shelf. Some of the stuff you have to special order, like the controller, the door latches, the wire for the elements, the door seal, and that's pretty much it. Everything else, you can go down to Home Depot. You can get this metal studs. Your Home Depot in the mainland will probably have sheet metal, but if not, you go to a HVAC specialist or a sheet metal dealer, and they can sell you the sheet metal. Try to get it at anywhere between 20 gauge to 18 gauge. You can get as heavy as 16 gauge. But keep in mind, you're going to have to carry that stuff. It's heavy, very heavy. For doing like a 4x4x6 oven, that's 11 sheets you'll need to do that, and 4 elements and 1 controller and 50 amps of power at your shop to do that. And you're off to the races. You can have that literally built, you and a friend in a 30-pack, and you can have that sucker built in a weekend.
30-pack.
That's how I built mine. It was funny. I didn't see any of the cans in the pictures. I was like, where'd all the cans go?
I know. Where did they go? I don't know. I don't know, but I needed earmuffs with all the noise that it created and the worrying about you building it and cutting your finger or doing this and that. You know, it is dangerous work. Just
you have to be
go slow.
You have to be careful. The sheet metal is very sharp. You're obviously going to use tools to cut, and unless you're building at 20 feet, and then you don't have to do any cutting at all because all the sheet metal is 10 by 20.
Right.
Yeah. So actually, there was a little bit of cutting for the roof because I did a 5-foot width.
Right,
so I made the roof, and that's another thing I didn't talk about is the roof. There's 2 ways you can set the roof in. You can set it inside the walls, or you can put it on top of the walls. Mm-hmm. And when I first built both, all the ovens that I've built where the roof was inside the walls, but on this new one, I built it on top. I laid it down, and it was really easy because we just had a forklift come in and just set everything down on top. And basically we used silicone and then we'd screwed it down and then put the top piece of sheet metal down on top of that to seal it after we put the rock wool bat in.
Yeah, that thing, that's crazy. I mean, I think I was a little skeptical at first because we'd always used that other stuff, the fiberglass stuff. And I'm like, why are you changing this? I'm not sure this is, and you're right. It's twice as fast as that other oven that we had.
It's twice as fast, and it holds the heat. And I mean, I used to really have to push it to get it up to 400 degrees, but now it gets up there, boom, no problem. And
which is always kind of the pitfall for why people don't want electric, right? Is because propane can get like that in 15 minutes. But
it is, and it's quick. And I'm not going to lie, propane and natural gas is quicker getting up to temp. And I'm just, these are factors that I had to deal with being in Hawaii. And, I did actually modify the small oven for a time that was half electric and half propane. I put a couple of propane burners in there just to see how much it would cost to run it. And
that's right. You did that.
It blew me away how, it was like, oh my God.
It makes the job go a little faster.
It got the oven up to temperature quicker. But once the metal is heated, the electric is just as fast. So that's what propane's really cool for, is that initial getting it up to temperature. So, when I have a big job and I know I need to go in early, and I just go in and the first thing I do, I walk through the door, I turn on the oven, boom. And then it's like, have a cup of coffee,
Yeah. Hang stuff.
Check out the news feeds and, then hang stuff. Right. Exactly.
Right. So, prep it and stuff, and probably people don't know this. I'd be surprised if they did, but our state is doing this. I forgot the name of the initiative, but basically we're one of the most, I don't know how to say it. It's just like our goal is by 2045, or is it 2035? We're going to be like 0 point, basically, like electric only.
Yeah. And well, it's part of this liberal agenda with the Agenda 21, basically the Green New Deal. And if they keep continuing, they basically have said in their white letters that basically anything that's gas is going to be outlawed. So that's a scary thing for voters, because everybody runs gas, and basically
going to be solar and nuclear is what they're saying.
Well, yeah. So basically, if you go completely with a PV system on your roof,
Yeah.
and you really go, like if you're in Vegas or Arizona where the sun is great, you can put, just as long as you have the amperage in at your building, you can put a solar array on the roof and have almost 0 point cost to run your business. So
yeah,
besides
something we've always wanted to do here for sure. And I think that that's the reason why, we've taken this anniversary issue to kind of sit down and talk to you about it, because I see that it's coming. We just did a trends, episode 35 was trends and stuff. And we kind of touched on that a little bit. We didn't go too deep with it, but in a sense, that is where the world's going, is electric powered for everything. You can just Google it. And that's another advantage to having an electric oven versus propane.
Yeah, it is. And it's just one of those things, nobody really makes them. So,
Yeah.
they're small manufacturers, but there's nothing big out there. So it's pretty simple to do. You can build it. There's no rocket science involved. It's just a matter of having the amount of amperage, and you're building a box that holds heat, and, just build it out of good quality materials, and it'll last a lifetime and give you lots of money running through your doors.
Yeah. Well, I hope you get to be on the podcast more often, but I don't know, with the long list on the wall of all the jobs you have to do, I'm happy that you got to come on the anniversary issue for sure. Get you in here as much as possible, because you have so much to share. And if you want to, talk to Ross or whatever, just sign up for the Patreon thing, and we'll give you an hour. That's part of the giveaway. And, if you need something more than that, we'll make ourselves available. Just email us at info@mauipowderworks.com. And you can speak to us kind of more on a consulting basis if you need something more than that.
Yeah, I think I still have all my notes on all my builds. I've always kept everything. So it's like, I already knew it takes 11 sheets to build a small oven. That number sticks out in my mind. It's like 11 sheets, So I think it was 28 sheets for the big oven. So, these are things you got to figure out how much materials you're going to need. You can literally figure out everything you need by how long your oven wall is going to be. So you can just figure it all out. You'll know what your cost is. You can just look at the cost online and go, oh, wow, this is only going to cost this much. And
don't forget to use that scrap for your sign.
Yes.
Put your sign up.
Oh.
With the extra scrap metal left over from the build, save the piece, powder coat it, and then put it as your sign above your door.
Yeah, definitely make your own sign. Because
that's the ultimate.
People come up to me and go, well, who did your sign? I go, I made my sign. Why would I want to go to a sign maker when I can powder coat?
We got the vinyls made, but we put them on. So yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for coming and joining us today. RossKote here, Kim Scott here. Have a great day. Thanks for sticking around for a whole year with us. Aloha.
Adios.